Thursday. So for anybody who's new to these live events, we've been doing broadcasts every Thursday morning at 8:30 Pacific Standard Time, which is not everyone's time. And so far it's been mostly Lee and I talking about like Knitting 101. We had a designer interview last week, and this week we're doing something a little different. What are we talking about, Lee?
New stuff. We launched a bunch of new stuff yesterday. It's very exciting.
Yeah, we took a small break from our usual like product release schedule just to catch up and get our bearings and figure out how to do it safely and easily. And yesterday, I guess, was the day that we finally were able to release all of the beautiful new babies into the world.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. So as we're talking through the pattern collections we've launched and the yarn that we've launched, so we've got two big buckets of good news. Feel free to comment in the comments and we'll answer your questions, ask questions, comment, just say hi. We'd love to see you. And yeah, and we'll just, I guess, get started going through the mad piles that I have here at home. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course things are a little bit weird with us being at home and not in the office, so we might not be able to show you everything, but it's all on the website, so go click around.
Yeah, and we'll give you links as we go, pointing you in the right direction for some things. I did manage to grab almost everything when I popped into the office yesterday, so we're pretty good. Yeah. So actually, Lee, let's start with the collections today, because I know those are near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, so if you don't know, I'm the graphic designer who designs all the books and patterns. So these collections are all I do. Yeah, I'm very close to them. So we have two new books. These are them. So we have a shawl book, which we'll start with, Vivid. It's all shawls that are knit with sock yarn. So it's like if you love sock yarn, but you don't love knitting socks, or you want to mix it up and it's something other than socks, it's a whole collection of shawls for you. So they're mostly in like Hawthorne and Stroll. There's a few in Chroma fingering for some color gradation.
And gloss.
We picked out a few. Oh, and gloss too. Yeah. So Hannah and I have one that's in both of our favorites lists. So I'll start by showing you that one.
Yes.
I love anything rainbow. I love zigzags. This is called The Other Side of Life Scarf. And it's a zigzag rainbow that's made with our Stroll tonal pack. So it's like a pack of
mini skeins.
Like a mini skeins that have like a color scheme or like a gradient kind of effect. So you can do different kind of color effects with the different packs.
Yeah, and I actually have that sample here. I managed to snag that one because I knew
that'll be better to show.
Both want to talk about it. So this is the actual knit sample. It's in Stroll, which is our superwash merino and nylon sock yarn. And the solid color is in our regular Stroll, and then this is the gradient pack. So you can see that it does all the work for you by picking those colors and giving you just the right amount for the whole project. And it's so soft. I think Stroll is my favorite for shawls and scarves.
And I'm going to call it, the designer is Margaret Mills. And I love I'm a former knitting pattern designer and I edit these patterns. So I learned how they're all made. Like I knit them all in my head. And this one was really cool to knit in my head because it's all made with short rows, like easy back and forth. All the zigzags are created with triangles. Like each zigzag is you knit. That's a better one to show you. You knit a little short row triangle and you go across, knit all the little short row triangles, then you do all the zigzags, then you do all the other short row triangles on the other side. It seems really fun to knit. I might have to knit it because it just sounds so fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't have the Stroll mini packs, like you can use, you can destash from what you already have and choose your own color combinations. It's a really interesting project from a construction standpoint and also from a color palette standpoint. So you've got a lot of fun things to play with there.
For sure.
Excellent.
What else do we have in the Shawls book?
I have the cover project as well here.
Yeah. So that one is called Sunday Vibes.
So you show first.
The
Yeah,
pattern.
I love it. And then this is Hawthorne. And we'll talk about Hawthorne a little bit later because that's one of our yarn releases this cycle. But for now, here's the shawl. You can see it's got some really beautiful, I believe these are the tonal colors. And I love how they play together. And Hawthorne has a really unique bounce and hand to it. So Stroll has more drape and Hawthorne is just a little bit more rugged, but has such a beautiful, cushy bounce feeling to it. And that is, and also this sweater is in Hawthorne with a loft held with it. It is my #1 yarn. And you also
This sweater is also Hawthorne with a loft held with it. And I love it. I want to knit every sweater in Hawthorne. I've also knit a sweater in Hawthorne held double because I like worsted weight yarn, and if you hold it double, it's worsted-ish. It works great that way too. Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. And the other thing about this pattern, while we're on this pattern, is the tassels.
Yes.
Which you can show in real life. I love these. I love the little mini tassels all along the edge. It's so fun.
I feel like we took a break from taking patterns that had tassels for a little while, and then we went deep this year.
Yeah.
What happened?
This collection alone has like 5 patterns maybe with tassels. It's, yeah, love it.
I'm into it. And then I have one last pattern that I know that you wanted to talk about from that collection, which is the hashtag. Yes, and I believe that's in gloss, right? It feels like gloss.
Yeah, that one's in gloss. Yes.
So you can see it's got these really sweet little hashtag patterns, and
so those are made with Mosaic Knitting, which we'll get into more later. But they're so well done. The little hashtags they're so like sharp and crisp, and they look cool. And it's not just like a line. They're like kind of staggered around.
Yeah, and it's just got a couple splashed up into the body of it.
We forgot to say the design. This one is by Moan Dragger. And yeah, again, I just really like this design and how it all comes together. And then the last one we talked about was Sunday Vibes was by Emily O'Brien.
Yeah, I think that, I see a lot of sock yarn shawls out there, and a lot of them will just add like an interesting stitch pattern as you go. And the formula is pretty basic, but I think these are really interesting from a construction standpoint. So if you're looking for something that is, I wouldn't say it was a challenge, but something that's just very interesting to dig into and nerd out about, this is the collection for you.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of patterns like that. One other Sunbow is another one that I liked that also uses the Stroll mini pack. So you have that gradient stripe that's made by each yarn being a slightly different shade. And this one too is like a fun, you can see that in the schematic, it's like a fun asymmetrical crescent.
I didn't realize that when I saw the sample.
Yeah, if you look at the two sides, like these stripes are close together and these are far apart because it's asymmetrical. It's just a basic crescent construction, but with short rows to make it asymmetrical. A lot of fun twists on fun, like crescents and triangles, but like a twist on the classic construction.
And with that last construction, it'll lay a little bit nicer on across your shoulders. If they're evenly spaced, sometimes if you're trying to toss the arm of the shawl over, it doesn't quite well, but this
you would
perfectly.
Yeah, because it's normal to wear a shawl asymmetrically, right? You don't always wear it symmetrically over your shoulder, so it makes sense for it to be shaped that way. Yeah.
Let's talk about the second collection, which is my favorite.
My favorite too. It's Mosaic Knitting. It's all Mosaic Knitting, and we even included a little intro to Mosaic at the beginning to talk about like the different kinds of effects you can get from it. So basically what Mosaic Knitting means, it's color work, but where you're only ever holding one yarn at a time, and you're creating the color work by slipping the stitches of the other color. So if you're wanting to go back and forth between color A, color B, instead of actually knitting a stitch in color A and knitting a stitch with color B, you're knitting a stitch with color A and then you're slipping the color B stitch. And that's really simplifying it, but you can get a lot of different effects with with that basic idea of slipping stitches.
Yeah, it's my favorite technique. It looks so complicated, but it's so easy to knit. I love that. And I love the fabric that you get with it too. Yeah. So
what project do you have first?
I have the cowl that you like the most.
The kitchen garden.
Yes. Look how gorgeous
this one
that
is. So cool. What I love about this one is that it's both organic and inspired by nature and very like mathematical and kind of mathy looking at the same time.
Right.
Like
It's so
I
good.
really love how it looks.
I love the gradient that happens. I think, isn't this Chroma?
It's made with Chroma, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's by Margaret Mills, who also designed the scarf that we both love. So great
Yeah.
job,
She's
Margaret.
having a good month, I think. Yeah, I just love, and I
All
like,
charted, and it looks scary, but it's just a very basic color chart of just, knit, slip the whole time.
right.
So
Yeah, I
fun to
love
knit.
that project. And I really love working with Chroma. So Chroma is also machine washable too. So it's an easy care yarn that feels good and also looks really good with that long gradient.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great fit for that pattern too.
Hmm. And then I snagged this sweater, which the minute it came into the office, I lost my mind. And this
So
is one of the
good.
projects that we had knit in 2 sizes and in 2 different
See it
colorways.
there modeled on one model,
Mhm.
and then on the other page modeled on the other model.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can see, yeah, both the sizes and the colorways are pretty different from each other too, so you can see kind of more contrasty and less contrasty.
Yeah, we wanted to play around with 2 different color palettes and 2 different sizes just to show the versatility of a single pattern and give people an idea of just how flexible something is. And what you can see in the photos a little bit better than probably here is that this is a mix of the tonal, I believe, Kettle, and then also speckle yarns. So there's a couple different colorways in there, and they look so good together. And also Hawthorne, again, is my favorite for sweaters. It just wears so well. I have a couple now, and ooh, so good. If you like wools.
We didn't say the name of this is the Mingling Sweater, and it's by Adrienne Larson. And it's a pretty, excuse me, it's a pretty simple, like this is the entire pattern.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty simple pattern. I think it would be a good intro to Mosaic if you've never done Mosaic, because it's a fun chart that kind of mixes, like it has 3 different colors instead of 2, and you're kind of going back and forth, and it's
and the
just really simple.
Fairly small.
Yeah, very short little repeat. Yeah, it's a great pattern.
Yeah. And do you have anything else in that collection you wanted to call it? This is the last sample I was able to find. I was scrambling in the dark because all the powers. So we're remodeling our office. So we're all home for different reasons, but also it's good news because the office is a mess and none of the power is off and everything's in the dark and there's construction everywhere. So I felt like I was going through a little bit of just a crazy zone trying to find everything. Yeah. So did you have some? I think you like.
Yeah. So I love this bathymetry hat by MK Nance because it's a really different kind of mosaic knitting. It's combining mosaic with mini cables, which is simple 1/1 stitch, or 1 stitch on top cables, but with those slip stitches. So the cables are running over the background. It looks really cool. And the crown is neat.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a really great hat pattern, and it's not what you think of when you think of mosaic knitting. So
right, it's not like like super traditional, very heavy colors, slip stitches. It's a little bit more sporadic, and I really love just a super graceful design.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like different takes. Those are the only ones I bookmarked, but there's a bunch of shawls.
We
there's
had a second sweater as well,
like
in 2 sizes.
Yeah. So this shawl is like more, it has like the strips of mosaic and strips of plain stock in it. And then whereas the shawl is just all over, like hardcore mosaic, if that's what you're into. And and the other sweater is the cover sweater, was knit in 2 sizes also. That's the montage.
2 colors.
Yeah, in 2 colors, yeah.
I love it.
Have the purple and the neutral.
And I saw we do have a comment saying that someone Lisa says that she loves the sweaters but doesn't really love yoke sweaters. And we don't have anything for like a raglan style in this book.
Yeah.
Ravelry does.
We have the Arista pullover is not yoke, but it's also not raglan.
Right.
It's like a set-in sleeves kind of.
And that's lovely.
Yeah. We only have the 3 sweaters in this book, so it's not real garment heavy.
Yeah.
I'd recommend searching on Ravelry because you can customize your search by the construction style that you like. So you can specify Mosaic and Raglan and see what's out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about yarn. Talk about
Yarn.
yarn, which is the best part for me.
Always.
We have a bunch of really cool news this time. I feel like the timing is a little bit funny, and then sometimes things get pushed one way or the other in terms of when they get delivered. And today, this cycle was a really good cycle, and I've been waiting for a really long time for some of these. So I wanted to talk about Hawthorne first because it is my favorite. We've got new Hawthorne Kettle colors, and they're all on the site. I believe there's 6 of them. And so here's 2 here. You can see that Kettle
That
has,
one's my favorite right there.
that's why I
So
pulled it
good.
out.
I
I was
wanted a
like,
sweater in that.
I know who loves these colors.
That's just
You
my
can,
shirt I'm wearing.
right? So you can see that there's like very subtle variations. There's like a little bit of dark, medium, and light tones within each skein. Same with this one. And we also have some more, let's see, more like jewel tones and the pink and then a darker purple. So the purpose of this launch was to round out what we already had and give you more of a full rainbow of color to work with. So these colors fill in some of those gaps that we had and also coordinate really well with the speckle yarns and some of the other yarns in the other lines. I want to make sure that each dye effect, so like kettle, speckle, hand paint, and tonal, are able to stand on their own, but also work together within a project. So something like the mingling sweater, which I showed you earlier, features several different dye effect yarns, but they all go together. So that's the goal. And then we also have new speckle colors, which I didn't realize we hadn't done since we launched this years ago. We haven't really touched it. The way that we develop speckle colors is we send like a color map to the mill and they guess at what we're trying to convey. And then so that you can get different density, different colors. You never know what you're going to get back from what you send. And so sometimes I think developing speckle colorways when you're not the one personally dyeing something is one of the hardest things that we do. And I'm so happy with these guys. So we've got, they're all on a white base. And the swatch, you can see that these are a little bit of a lighter speckle than the ones that we currently have on the site. And we've got one that is like a peach. I keep calling it peach melba in my head. I don't remember what we called it. I don't have the labels here, but it's like this beautiful like peach ring candy color. So again, these are meant to like fill out around what we already have, and then also work with some of the kettle, some of the tonal, and some of the hand painted colorways. So you can have like these beautiful sock yarn shawls that really look good together with colors fading in and out, and get a true fade out of something. So that's Hawthorne. And then I have Chroma, which is the other one. And that's something we're not really, it's launched. So if you know about Chroma, you can find it on the website. We'll probably put a link in these notes if you would like it. We haven't put any of the big banners up for it, so it's a little bit hidden. It'll be a kind of a bigger showboat release later. But for now, we've developed a bunch of new Chroma Twist. So that is when we've applied a color that exists on it itself to make a really cool watch. Yeah, these guys.
And I love Chroma Twist. I like Chroma Twist better than regular Chroma because it feels a bit sturdier, like more durable. And it's slippers in Chroma Twist bulky, and I love them. They're so good.
They're so good. I made a pair of socks. This is the Chroma Twist worsted weight, which is just two ply.
Chroma Twist worsted is brand new, right? We've never had Chroma Twist worsted before.
No.
So that is really exciting to me because I love worsted weight and I love Chroma Twist. So.
Yes. So I've made 4 pairs of socks now with the worsted weight. The green ones on the website, which are Stacy's, I can't pronounce this pattern name, Glante socks. I'm sure we'll put a
link to it.
We'll link to it. I have never been able to pronounce that one.
It's a long word that starts with A.
It's like Stacy's specialty. And I know she's watching right now.
Yeah,
and I made a pair of socks out of those, and I like that they look good together, but they're not identical matches. And because Chroma is has nylon in it. And now because it's plied, I do recommend doing projects that are harder wearing with it. So like socks with more friction because it will hold up better and it's machine washable. And the
I
color
need a sweater and Chroma Twist
blankets.
worsted. I think would be so nice.
I want to do a series
Yeah,
of granny
blanket.
squares. I think that would be really cool.
Ooh,
The fades
oh,
coming
cool.
out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we don't have any of the solid colors in Chroma Twist worsted. We don't have like the white to go with it, but you can pair it with the single ply version, which is regular Chroma, to get that. I think that would be a really nice contrast to have the plied version of Chroma Twist worsted and then the single ply be a little bit fluffier. The other thing I want to mention while we're talking about this is that I noticed when I was knitting my socks, and I got very worried for one whole second, and then I realized it was me fine. Is that Hawthorne or Chroma is spun to be thick and thin, so I'll mimic hand spun a little bit. It's not extreme, but there are some spots where Chroma worsted specifically gets a little bit thin and then a little bit thick, but it evens out in the end, and I don't even see it in the finished thing. I just want to make sure, like, for some reason, the ball I started with, the very first project I did, started with a thin section. I thought, oh no, this doesn't feel like a worsted weight. But then the fabric, as I was knitting, it evened out and it was perfect. So don't worry about it. It is a worsted weight. Even if you get a thin section on accident in the beginning or a thick section in the beginning, it will always balance out and blocks beautifully.
I
Yeah,
love how thick and thin yarn looks in the final fabric.
it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it looks a bit hand spun and
Yeah,
more. Yeah.
a little bit of texture. And I will say that the bulky weight, because it's, I believe, 3 strands plied together instead of just 2, it balances out a little bit more. So you're not getting that thick and thin as much as you'd see in the worsted weight or in the single version. And then the last thing we want to talk about, and I realized as we were going to record this, I did not grab a single ball of it, is the new Aloft hand painted, which is gorgeous. And you and I are both wearing Hawthorne with a loft held double. And a loft is our mohair yarn, our mohair
It's great
silk.
for holding double. We have some sweaters that are knit in just a loft or like a loft held double with itself, which is like if you love mohair. But I love a loft held with something else. I've knit a couple things. Yeah.
And so the hand paint, I have a project here, which is just a single strand of a loft hand painted in a shawl. And you can see, this is one of the darker colorways, and you can see the kind of shifting tones. And if you held that with another yarn, it would just add a very subtle gradient to it. And this is a little bit more extreme because it's just with itself. If you held 2 strands double or carried it with another yarn, it would be a little bit more muted. And someone I see is asking about our sweaters, or at least your sweater. You want to describe what your sweater is, Lee?
Yeah, so my sweater is a little bit weird. It's a choose your own adventure pattern called adventure knitting. So all the different kind of diagonal stripes are different stitch patterns, which are all meant to go together. So it's just a square that's knit on the bias, and then the back is another square knit on the bias, and then it's seamed. And then I just picked up the stitches, and the yarn, the Hawthorne, is a sock labs from last summer, so it's unfortunately you can't get anymore. But it was from the rainbow. In June we did a whole rainbow as speckles and stripes and different versions. So it's like the rainbow speckles on the front and then the rainbow stripes on the sleeve. But yeah, I'll post a link to my Ravelry project page so you can see the details there too. Yeah.
And then my sweater is Hawthorne speckle with a white aloft held along with it. And it's from the Brioche collection, I believe.
No, it's from the Marled collection.
Marled collection.
Because Marled is the aloft and the Hawthorne held together.
Yeah, and it's a fisherman's rib, which is why I keep thinking it's brioche. It's not, because brioche and I don't get along. But fisherman's rib and I get along beautifully. So this is a great sweater. We'll post a link for that as well.
And the collection is called Better Together. It just came out a few months ago.
Yeah. And Erica is giving me a note that it's the Riant, I think. So we'll double check. If anybody has any questions before we kind of wrap it up, if you just want to give a shout out to something that you loved from the new launch, feel free. And otherwise, I don't know. I'm out of things to. Oh, I do have one more thing I can show you. So we just launched a few, I don't know the other ones up, but we've launched at least one very cute stuffy pattern. And I think stuffed animals are maybe my favorite thing to knit. I've been very busy knitting them. My little nephews really like them. And I find that they're quick to knit and they're great for kids. And they're not going to outgrow them like sweaters and things. So they last a lot longer. So I did the little new narwhal pattern in one of the new Chroma Twists colorways, the Wednesday colorway. And it was so good. I love its little body shape. So that's on the website. And I love making it. It was so much fun to knit it. Yeah. I think that's about all we have this week. As always, join
What
us.
was the shawl? Oh, did we? Kathy is asking what was the shawl we held up in the loft. That's the new free pattern. It's called Sparkler Scarf or Stole, I believe. And it's if you go to our web, there's a link in there. I think we already posted a link, but it's a free beaded scarf pattern. That's
it's beautiful. Pattern. It's the perfect size and weight to wear kind of all year long and bring it with you to like dinner outside overnight, or it's cozy, it scrunches up very small, but it also becomes very big and blooms, and it just covers a lot of you. It'd be perfect for a wedding. And I think a wedding shawl is lovely.
And it comes in 3 different sizes too. So if you want a skinnier scarf, there's that option too. And then there's the wider stole option. It's a good pattern.
Yeah, wonderful.
Well, thank you, everyone. We're bad at like calling people out, but somebody said we knit lovely sweaters, and the comment is gone, so I don't remember your name. But thank you. I saw it.
Great. And thank you for all the comments on the narwhal. It's very cute. I highly recommend you knit one yourself. I believe there's a manatee coming very soon, if it's not already up, and some other things as well. So we're busy behind the scenes with little toys. Yeah. Well, as always, you can join us every Thursday at 8:30 PST time. You can also watch these videos and the past videos that we've done in the videos tab on our Facebook page. We also, in between these lovely broadcasts, you can find us on Instagram for some inspiration. You can go to our learning center to watch tutorials and videos and learn more about knitting.
And if you like us talking, we have a podcast where you can listen to us in your ears, very similar to what we're doing now about different things.
Oh, very similar. Just conversations about yarn, knitting, behind the scenes, and that's released every other week. And you can also find that on our website in the Learning Center or on iTunes, anywhere you listen to podcasts already. You can join the whole Knit Picks team talks at different points about all sorts of things. So and we look forward to talking with you. And also you can join our Facebook group, Together We Knit, and we love eavesdropping and commenting and seeing what everyone's doing. Share projects, show us like what you've ordered, what you love most about the recent launch. I would love to see what everybody's excited about, because I am so deeply excited about everything. And it's been a long time coming for some of these things. So, All right. Well, thank you, Lee, and I will see you
Thanks, Anna.
next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.